Welcome to the Wise Women Forward podcast. And today we have one of our younger wise women. Paige Connell is a leading voice in the mental load of modern motherhood. And she's known for her relatable, incisive content that captures the realities of modern marriage, parenting, and work. And she knows what she's talking about. She's a working mother of four. And that honest storytelling resonates with millions over TikTok, Instagram, and beyond. Her work has been featured on the Today Show, Good Morning America, Scary Mommy, and her insights continue to shape the national conversation on the invisible labor carried by women. Very important conversation to have. Through that advocacy, Paige is pushing for systemic change, championing affordable and accessible childcare, paid parental leave, reproductive rights, and truly equitable partnership at home and in the workplace. And she empowers women and men to challenge outdated norms, to build more balanced relationships, and create supportive environments where all families can thrive. I think everyone listening knows that all of those things are so necessary. If you've gone through motherhood, relationships, so necessary.
Yeah, I came across you and I was so moved by how you're highlighting things that we just take for granted, but you're highlighting them in a way that has us consider how we move forward, how the human condition improves as we get a better understanding of these things. So I feel like you're motivated to just move us forward as humanity. What are some of the things that drive you to do that? And what are some of the things you're pushing against with that?
I think initially my drive was just wanting change in my own relationship and my own journey and uh not wanting to kind of suffer in silence through it all. So that was my first thing was I wanted to enjoy motherhood and marriage and my life and my career, and I wanted all of those things for myself. I think from that, I became aware of some of the larger systemic barriers and the things in our way, and I've become more educated on the topic. And so felt compelled to, if I have a platform, use that to continue to push these things forward. And I think my specific area, I try to help other people, one, not feel alone, feel like they're validated in their experience and that they're not the only one going through it, but also become aware of all of the systems at play because typically, you know, something like the mental load, for example, doesn't happen in a bubble. It happens because of many different compounding factors. And so when you can zoom out and look at that, you can actually start to think about what can maybe change.
The whole way that we feel so isolated today, it's really horrendous. And we think our whole project is about bringing community together. It's to reinform women that their inherent idea of social capability and community, it's how we actually evolved. It's brand new science. And so I'm so glad that you're doing that. And it's so disheartening to me how many people feel isolated.
Yeah. When I was mom, I would have wanted to hear everything that you talk about because I was a working mom as well. And I actually didn't really find my more public voice until I went through menopause. And then all of those, I just gave up on what other people cared about me. And I was just going to speak my voice. How did you find your voice so amazingly, so loudly?
Yeah, I don't know. Some of that, I think, I always joke, I come from a very loud family. So I feel like you had to have a voice to be heard. And so I always felt really confident speaking up and talking about things and having an opinion and articulating that opinion. I always kind of found that to be true of myself throughout my life. But I think in this area in particular, this experience of being a wife and a mother and a working mother in particular, I actually didn't speak up much because it did feel a little bit inevitable. I think a lot of women feel like this is just kind of how it is. Like, this is just what it is. I have to deal with it. I have to suffer through it. I have to kind of grin and bear it. And I definitely had that for a little while. But I think for me, I just kind of reached a breaking point where I felt the need not just to speak up in my relationship with my partner, but to speak up, with my friends and to speak up with other people. And one day, I was creating content on social media that had nothing to do with this topic. I was not talking about this. But one day I just shared a story. And in sharing that story, I just received so many messages and so much feedback. And it made me realize, oh, wow, I'm not the only one feeling this. There's so many people. And I think having that experience makes you realize like, okay, like this is actually worth the time and attention. If I can be a person who can help drive this conversation forward, then that's an amazing responsibility and it can have positive impact. And so I think for me, it was really a lot of it came from the confidence of it came from hearing from other women and men, but mostly other women about their experience. And that gave me the confidence to keep going because even though it's not always easy to speak up when you have so many people telling you that it's impactful for them, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I think women coming together makes it easier for all of us to speak our voice.
Yeah.
For us, we get letters like you almost every day where people talk about the project and the ideas informing them and helping them feel more foundationally grounded because at the base of what we are trying to do is we have the idea of women's leadership is fundamental to us. And so whenever a woman feels that part of them to express, they're standing on a sisterhood of 2 million years of evolution. And so for you, are there some letters or some ways people reach out to you that are just super special that just they made you like, holy crap, this is really amazing to me?
Yeah, I found that, it's interesting because when you're on the internet, uh, especially in the way that I am, I get hundreds of thousands of comments every single day and messages. And so it can feel very hard to give them all the attention they deserve. And one of the things that I have found is the real life interactions I get to have sometimes really are so impactful because you get to have that face-to-face connection with somebody. So I'm always so impacted by the moments when somebody actually stops me out in the world and says like, "Hey, that video was really impactful for me," or "Hey, when you said that, that made a big difference for me," or "Hey, I just want you to know, like, you've given me the language to say X, Y, and Z." Like, I think it's so funny because we all live on the internet so much, but those in-person experiences I think are really a reminder that you're not kind of screaming into a void, and we're actually people moving throughout the world and we're having impact in that way. And so those have always stuck with me. But yeah, I get some really nice emails and messages, and I can't get to all of them, but they're all meaningful, every single one.
For sure. And thank you for that work. It's really great.
Thank you.
So, our movie talking about how menopause is not only natural, but an evolutionary adaptation. So we are meant to go through menopause, and we're actually birthing ourselves into the wisdom and leadership part of our lives.
Hmm.
When we, in making this movie and discovering this, that there's actually this science, I realized I started looking back in my life and I realized how much pressure and, oh my God, I got to do it all now. And there's very little time that I was feeling through my motherhood and, trying to do the career and everything all at the same time because I felt like I would get to 50 and I would be walking off a cliff. Do
Hmm.
you ever feel something like that? Do you feel like there's a time frame and oh my God, then what happens?
Yes and no. I think, I always tell people, I'm like, sometimes people paint motherhood as kind of like the end, right? Like that's when your career kind of stops becoming important and your kids become important. And it's going to be 18 years before you can focus on yourself. And in a lot of ways, that's true. Like in a lot of ways, my world revolves around my children and my identity of being a mother. But I actually didn't find my career, like my true purpose and passion until I had kids. Like my kids were the catalyst for the life I live today. They are the reason it even exists. If I didn't have kids and didn't walk through motherhood and, reach that breaking point, whether good or not, like none of this would even exist, right? And so, like, I think it's because of them that my life looks the way it does today. And so I actually I don't view it like that anymore. I do think there is this like pressure cooker environment where I always say to my therapist, I'm like, it feels like I have to say yes and I have to keep going and I have to do more. And I like it feels like if you take a pause, you miss an opportunity. And it definitely feels like that. And at the same time, it feels like if you, people make you feel like if you miss a day with your kids, you blink and they're gone. And so it's like you have these two competing things that you feel like you have to run at. I luckily though don't feel like there's like an end. I don't feel like I'm running towards that, but it definitely still does feel like you just don't know how long the ride will last for anything, both parenthood and career wise. And so it can feel like you don't have the time to kind of pause and take a moment.
Yeah, I think the pressure cooker is the superpower of the multitasking brain that we have, and it can sometimes
Yeah.
trip us up.
Yep, totally.
We also did a movie because we love motherhood so much. We did a movie that celebrates pregnancy and birth
Oh,
called
cool.
40 Weeks. And in that movie, we follow 13 families that go through the whole process. And so it's a huge transition, right? And it's also incidentally women going through pregnancy feel isolated. And so we did a lot to try to create community around that as well. The notion of menopause, and so you're definitely in the middle of
Yes.
motherhood, and the notion of menopause is sometime in the future. What are some of your thoughts of what you're heading into and what that is that means to you?
Yeah, I think the thing for a lot of women my age, I think now more than ever, there's more education and conversation about menopause and perimenopause. So that's great, right? Like I don't feel like we're going in blind. And probably a lot of that's thanks to the work that you all are doing and others in this space. And so I think that's great. I think the thing a lot of us struggle with is it's hard to know what's happening, right? Like to you. And I think that's the scariest thing for me as I like look ahead. It's like, okay, is it lack of sleep or is it perimenopause? Like is it what is it? Like what is impacting me, right? And I think more than ever, I'm talking to a lot of other women my age who are like, I'm just trying to figure out like what is happening did I lose my hair after having kids and it never came back? Or do I have a hormone imbalance? Like what's happening to me and my body and my life? And I think because many people are having children older too, it's just changed the timelines a little bit for a lot of people. Um, but yeah, when I think about it, I'm not afraid of it. I think it's more so like trying to understand. I'm trying now to understand myself and understand my body and what's normal and what's not normal for me and just have a better read on things. And especially now that I'm coming out of the like not the trenches, but like the early days of motherhood. My youngest is almost 4. I feel like I'm coming out and I'm like, okay, I'm a person again. And this is my and this is my body and this is how I sleep and this is I'm getting a feel for me again, and it almost feels like I'm starting at a baseline, so hopefully by the time I get to that point I can say like actually I know what my baseline is or was, like okay, maybe we can start assessing where we're at.
So pregnancy, and you went through 4 of them, there's some science that's developing anthropologically that it literally leaves marks on your teeth. It's a
Oh, okay.
bone deep, they call it a bone deep event, right? And so your teeth bear witness to 4 pregnancies, right? And it has those, if somebody was to look at your teeth like the ring of a tree, they would find these marks on your teeth.
Mm,
Menopause also is a bone deep event,
interesting.
right?
That's how
And
intense
and
it is.
and because our society up to date has wanted to limit the potential of women post menopause, we've also limited our conceptualization and understanding of what menopause is and how your body goes through that transition.
Right.
And I feel strongly, we feel strongly that it's because women are told that after they go through menopause that they're done. They're just shipped out to pasture. They're no longer useful. And so when women enter the symptoms of perimenopause or into going in menopause, they're fighting against this bad information that this is they're being over, as opposed to realizing it's another bone deep event that you give birth to a new version of yourself. Your brain changes, your body changes, your physicality, your awareness, your hormones, they all change to make you the best leader that nature can make. And so once we understand
And
that,
leader on whatever level.
Exactly
It could
right.
be leader within your family,
Right.
your community, or
Right.
the larger world.
And once we understand that menopause for women, it's like you went through when we did the movie about pregnancy, and me as a man looking at what women go through, it's horrific. I have no idea how you could go through that. And then want
Yeah.
to repeat, it's just, it's crazy to me, right? But you know that you're going to get a child on the other end of it. So you basically don't try to medicalize away any of that. You're like, oh, okay, I have morning sickness. I'm going to deal with it, right? Or, okay, my body is changing. I'm going to deal with it. It's the same with menopause. And right now we still have this thing that we're not honoring what comes on the other side of it. You have
Yeah.
some thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, I wanted to go back to her
Sure.
like center point
Sure. Well,
because I know you're so excited about the menopause stuff, but I love what you speak about, especially when you're talking about the imbalance of labor and
Hmm.
the lack of support and the lack of understanding that when you're being a mom, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a working mom, it sort of feels like the mom work that you're doing is home at home is like, well, that's not really work. When in
Mm.
truth, it's huge work. What are the changes that you would like to see on a societal level for support in motherhood?
There's so much conversation around things like the fertility rate right now, right? And why are we not having more children? And I think actually this week somebody called it women are underbabied. We don't have enough, we're not having enough babies. And um, the thing that I find in talking to people is that it's not just one thing, right? It's the lack of affordable childcare, it's the lack of paid parental leave, it's the risk to your career, it's the invisible labor and mental load women tend to carry more than men. It's the fact that when women have children, they have less time for hobbies and fitness and leisure and sleep and all of these things, right? And men don't have that same experience. And so I think for me, it's not one thing, unfortunately, right? And like collectively as a society, I think this actually goes back to what you were just saying, which is that like I personally think that we take pregnancy and childbirth and parenting far too casually. I think it's like it's seen as like, oh, she's pregnant, she's gonna have a baby. Oh, you had your baby, how's it going? It's like this is a life altering. You're also risking your life every single time, right? Like it's an incredibly dangerous thing. Like we praise people who have dangerous jobs and we never praise women, right? Like in the same way for giving birth. And your everything is different after, right? Your body, your brain, your emotional capabilities, everything is different. And so like I think we take that far too lightly in our society. And I think we also have just made it the default that we expect women to do the invisible labor of motherhood and marriage and domestic life. And I think in order for that to change, we need more and more women speaking up about it. We need more and more men involving themselves in that work in a really meaningful way. And unfortunately, we're living in a time where this is all, contentious, like the traditional dynamics versus modern dynamics. But I really do think it's a mixture of policy and systemic change as well as societal expectations and conditioning, right? Like I always joke, like growing up, I watched my parents watch like Everybody Loves Raymond, and it's a perfect example of like the bumbling husband, right? And she's the nag and the ball and chain, and it's like poor Deborah was just trying to like get people fed, right? Like
Yeah.
she was just trying to keep the house in order, and but we grew up with that really normalized for us, like that's what it looks like, and I think we need to do a better job of showing a different version of what it looks like to be a mother, to be a partner, to be a woman in our country, or in the world in general. And so I think it's going to take a lot of different factors.
Mm.
yes, and the work that you're doing is helping that come along.
Yeah. Speaking it out
Yeah.
loud. Yeah.
Maybe this is about me. It probably is, but
Knowing you. Yeah, it
Yeah.
probably is.
sorry. Well,
That's okay.
do you have any opinions? Because now you're understanding that. I'm the director of the film, right? So my first film I directed was a movie about pregnancy, and now my fourth film I'm directing is about menopause. Do you have any thoughts on, what a man can bring to the table about these inherently female subjects?
Yeah, I think the thing I think about is this idea that we need men in the conversation, right? Like we need men in it. We need men to understand it or to want to learn about it. And because unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, a lot of men only learn when other men tell them, right? Like so like a woman, I can tell a
I'm
man.
sorry. That is so perfect.
What?
I love that.
What do you mean
Yes.
by that?
Uh-huh.
What?
Uh, a
Yeah.
lot of men, there is research to show this too, I believe, that a lot of men, like, uh, when it comes to say like domestic labor, for example, if they were going to do more domestic labor, typically a lot of them won't do it just because their partner says that they should do it. But if they see other men doing it, they feel inherent pressure to do what the other men are doing, right? To join in that work. And so it's kind of this mentality of like, oh, well, if he's doing it, then I'll do it too. Um, and so a lot of there's a lot of kind of like conversation around specifically this invisible labor portion. It's like one of the ways we move this needle is not just for women to get loud about it, but it's for men to be in the conversation, for men to change their actions, for men to tell other men what they're doing and how they're showing up, for men to normalize being like a really involved dad who's folding diapers or folding laundry and changing diapers and all of the things. And I think the same thing is true about pregnancy. I think a lot of times women, I meet a stranger at the playground, she already knows my birth story, right? Like she knows everything. Men don't tend to have those same conversations with each other. So I actually think it's really important for men to care about this, learn about this, talk about this, educate about this, because, you know, we need that not just for us women to feel validated. Like we want everybody to understand it, right? Like to the extent that they can. So I actually think it's great. And I think the important thing is kind of like having men involved and then making sure still to center the women's experience of it, because obviously she's the one going through the pregnancy.
Yeah.
I loved learning what I could learn about it and then
Yeah.
finding the humility to know that I have no idea ever. Can I
Yeah.
conceptualize it? And that beautiful for me as a man, I find a good place to stand in the idea. I know that I don't know, I think. And
Yeah.
that place allows me to be okay with when, because I'm easily confused, right?
Sure.
So you ask me to set up who's going to sit where at the dinner table for more than two people, and I'm overwhelmed by that decision point, right? And so
He can make a film, but to organize the family,
yeah, not so much,
challenging.
not so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd like to just have you imagine something for a moment, because as I said at the beginning, we're bringing in one of our younger wise women, because to me, you truly are a wise woman and speaking wisdom into being. So imagine yourself 20 years from now, right? I don't know exactly how old you are, but I'm assuming 20 years you're going to be going through perimenopause or into menopause, but you're certainly at the time when your brain is changing, things are changing, huge. Your youngest would be 24, so
Yeah.
possibly a fully empty nester as well. Where do you see yourself? Where do you see your advocacy going?
When people ask me this, I say I think it's probably going to evolve as I evolve, right? So it's hard to say exactly. I think a lot of it will still look the same. I think unfortunately a lot of what I'm talking about won't be drastically different in 20 years. I hope we make progress, but I don't think it will be solved. I don't know that we'll solve this problem overnight. So I think I will still very much care about things like affordable childcare and paid parental leave and the workplace as it relates to women. And especially I'm raising three daughters. And so I think I will continue to think about all of those things. But I also think it will change and grow as I grow. You know, I imagine I'll have a different experience of life at that age, and I'll probably be thinking about different systemic issues that I've been encountering along the way. And so, and I even find that now, as my kids are getting older, that the things that I'm, navigating my day-to-day life are so different than they were 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And so, yeah, it's hard for me to picture where I'll be. I hope I'm still kind of in the same space of advocating for a better version of what family life can look like for everyone. Like, I really do think the work that I do, even though it is focused on women, can positively impact a lot of men. I genuinely believe that. I think it helps build happier, healthier, more sustainable partnerships and parents. And so it's not really just about women. I think oftentimes people think of childcare, menopause, paid parental leave, any of those things as a women's issue. I don't view them as a women's issue, right? I view them as an issue that we should all care about, that might impact women most closely. But ultimately, the ripple effects of it impact everybody, including our economy and our society at large. And so I think I'll continue to be thinking about that kind of work.
Yeah, it's a societal issue.
Yeah.
It's how our community moves forward well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I personally believe, and I think that I'm convincing Dominique, or maybe she believes it as well, that the distance between us rising in our wisdom, male and female, and the changes is shorter than you're saying. And the reason, the example I use is, if you remember when we got locked down in COVID, right? We were all staying home, and we sort of took our knee off of the neck of nature. And within weeks, we had like clumps of deer walking around our yard eating the food, right?
And we have a postage stamp backyard.
Right? And so nature came back immediately, right? And I feel like what we underestimate, because doing these projects, men come up to me and they say, we're so glad you're doing this because the patriarchy and its bully system is sort of it's pretty small, the people who take up all the oxygen in the room. But their magic is to have us believe that it's bigger than that, right? And so when you say the distance, you're buying into that
and I
idea.
think the level, the loudness that
Right.
they're screaming means that
how
something's
much
changing.
Something's changing. And so so many men have come up to me after screenings and said, we're so thankful because we want to help. We're just not being heard right now. And the patriarchy is suppressing us as well.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. You know, it's funny, in a completely different life, I remember my boss saying to me, Paige, is this a loud problem or a big problem? Like, is it just really loud? Like, it was a person that I was dealing with. He's like, is this person just really loud? Or is what this person talking about like actually a big problem? Like, it feels like it's probably just one person being really loud about something. And I try to think about that all the time. I think, you know, I agree with you and also know that a lot of things can feel like two steps forward, one step back, right? I think one of the things that I actually found about the pandemic was so much of the progress that women had made rolled back, right? Because so many systems crumbled. And like I think about childcare in particular, right? Like childcare, that system was already fragile and in that environment became even more so, right? And so we're what, almost 6 years out? Oh my gosh, crazy to think we're 6 years out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
indeed.
we're still feeling the repercussions of that, right? 6 years since then, childcare doesn't look the same, and people are still struggling with childcare and rising costs and lack of affordability and lack of accessibility, and we're grappling with that, right? So I think my big thing is when I think 20 years ahead, I think it's not that we won't make progress, but I very much feels like you will make progress, and then we will start, things will happen, and we will keep going. It's kind of that push and pull. And it's just kind of sustained effort, right? Like you have to keep sustained effort on these things to actually see really kind of
Yeah.
incremental change.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we call our podcast Wise Women Forward because just like what you're talking about, all of those kind of loud things keep having us look backwards, and it pulls us into the mess of stuff instead of looking forward at changes. So we usually ask our guests, what is your thought of Wise Women Forward? What does that make you think of?
When I hear that, the thing I think about is the future, right? What are we walking towards? Like what's ahead of us? You know, I'm always trying to have that mindset. Like I try, I actually give this advice oftentimes, which is like, we can't change what's already happened, right? It impacted us. We can learn from it, we can grow from it, but we can't change it. Like we can't go back and redo all of the things that happened or the way our life panned out. But what we can do is we can use that to move forward and to change things and make things better. And so that's what I think of, which is you can take as much wisdom as that you've learned about anything in the world, right? Like I always joke too. It's like it could be something as simple as like, I know that I can't go to the grocery store at 5 p.m. because it's too busy. I'm not doing it again, right? Like I'm not doing that. Like it can be small, it can be big, right? And so I think like we're constantly gathering information throughout our life from lived experience that we then get to take that information forward and do things differently if we want to, or try to do more of it if it's going well. But I think that's how I always think about it. Knowledge is power, and power really just is having that ability to impact change in whatever way you want to do it.
Yeah, we
Awesome.
agree.
That's beautiful.
We love asking that question because it's always a little surprise what we get, and because we're talking to wise women, it's always beautiful. So you've added to the canon of beautiful
Yeah.
wise women.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anything that we should have asked you that we forgot to or didn't know to, or is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think you, unless there's anything else on your end, but no, I think you covered it.
Yay, wonderful.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Paige, for being with us and for adding the voice of wise women at every age and at motherhood in a hugely important time.
And so
Thank you.
Paige's links, and if you haven't been following her, I think everybody is following her already. But if
Yeah,
you're
you've
one
got
of the
to.
few people that aren't, you have to. They'll be in the description. Take a look at it. And our film is Wise Women, Humanity's Untold Origins, and there'll be a link to that also in the description. So thank you for coming, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks.